Welcome everybody. We're going to deal with some of the questions from the last class. We're going to talk about your homework and see how it went, what to do after an earthquake. We're going to start talking about utilities. Riding out an earthquake in an unreinforced masonry building, otherwise known as a URM, the guidance is drop, cover, and hold on. And I just sent some paperwork today to everybody. And one of those is an infographic from the city of Seattle about if you're in an unreinforced masonry building. The guidance is the same as if you weren't in an unreinforced masonry building. It is drop, cover, and hold on. So that was one question. The early earthquake warning system. I love this topic. I'll go through it kind of fast. Luckily for us, there are two types of waves that are emitted once an earthquake fault line slips. The first wave that comes out, luckily it comes out first and it moves really, really fast. It's called the P wave. The second wave is called the S wave, and that's where most of the shaking is. So the P waves come out first and fast, and the S waves come out second. They're a little bit slower, but they cause more of the shaking. So the early earthquake warning system picks up on that P wave, which comes out first. There are sensors throughout the state of Washington. You need 4 sensors to detect a quake in order to, the word is not triangulate because that's 3, but it takes 4 sensors to figure out where is it at, how strong is it, how deep is it, and then they do lots of calculations and they figure out who they should notify that this is happening. So it takes about 3 seconds to detect that quake and generate an alert. And then the lag comes after that.
What would you do if you have seconds to prepare for shaking from an earthquake that has already begun? More than 143 million people in the United States are exposed to potentially damaging shaking due to earthquakes. Most of our nation's earthquake risk is concentrated in highly populated areas on the active plate tectonic boundaries of the west coast of the continental United States. The U.S. Geological Survey operates the Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning System, which is part of the Advanced National Seismic System. Shake Alert is not earthquake prediction, but a Shake Alert message issued by the USGS indicates that an earthquake has begun and shaking is imminent.
Don't let yourself be convinced to do something that you know is bad, and then finally just share it.
With even a few seconds of warning, Shake Alert can save lives and reduce injuries by alerting people to take a protective action such as drop, cover, and hold on. Shake Alert further protects people and infrastructure by triggering automatic actions such as slowing down trains to prevent derailments, opening firehouse doors so they don't jam shut, and closing valves to protect water systems and to stabilize equipment during life-critical situations. How does Shake Alert work? When an earthquake occurs, seismic waves carry energy in all directions away from the epicenter. P waves, similar to sound waves, move quickly through the ground, followed by the slower and generally more damaging S waves and surface waves. Sensors detect the seismic waves and send that information to a Shake Alert processing center, which requires that at least 4 sensors detect the earthquake. If the earthquake fits the right profile, the USGS issues a Shake Alert message. Distribution partners then produce and deliver an alert to people and trigger automated systems. Alert delivery can be before, during, or after shaking from S waves and surface waves. Alerts can be delivered to people through apps designed for cell phones and other wireless devices, over public address systems, TVs and radios, and by FEMA's Wireless Emergency Alert System, WEA, which is also the source of Amber Alerts. For every earthquake, there is a region near the epicenter where alerts will not arrive before shaking begins. That's because close to the epicenter, the P and S waves are too close together, and the Shake Alert system needs time, often just seconds, to estimate the earthquake's magnitude and shaking levels before issuing a Shake Alert message. That means that people close to the earthquake epicenter might not get an alert until after the shaking has already started. Those farther away from the epicenter could receive more warning time before shaking arrives. If an earthquake continues to grow in size, additional Shake Alert messages might be issued, updating the estimated magnitude and expected shaking for that event, which will result in alerts being delivered to a broader area. The USGS recommends that when you receive an alert, you should take protective action immediately. Do not wait for shaking to arrive. If you are near the coast in a tsunami-prone region, it's important to get to high ground quickly, but only after shaking stops. Before traveling to a new place, learn about both the local hazards and the recommended precautions to take by reading information found in the city, county, or state's emergency management websites. Knowledge of your surroundings and practicing protective actions are critical components of preparedness for any disaster. Always remember, if you receive an earthquake alert or experience shaking, drop, cover, and hold on until all shaking stops.
I'm going to encourage you, smart people on the phone, to be understanding about the system. Spread understanding about the system, because it doesn't seem to always work right. It is working right, but it doesn't appear to always work right depending on where you are and where the epicenter of the earthquake was. So sometimes you will get warning, but no shaking. Sometimes there's warning, but there's little or no shaking. So that's frustrating. You're like, oh, false alarm. Again, maybe you were so far away from the epicenter you didn't feel it, or they're shaking and the warning comes later. So lots of different things can happen. It doesn't mean the system is broke. It doesn't mean it's wrong or wired wrong or anything. It just is very dependent on where the epicenter was and where you were. Always encourage folks to be understanding and to help others understand that the system is great. It just depends on where you are, what kind of alert you're going to get. So how the alerts get to us. There are two different ways. Shake Alert is the first system, and there is an app that's out. It's called MyShake, and I've given you guidance on how to download that to your phone. And you do want both of these because they do different things and they signal you a little bit differently. So the Shake Alert is very similar to the Amber Alerts that many of us have enabled on our phone. So you have to have internet cell phone signal so they know where you are, so they can send you a message. It looks like this on your phone. The picture of the phone right there, you're going to get a text, and it makes a very distinct sound. It is the Amber Alert sound. That's what you will hear if you have this enabled on your phone. All WEA alerts, regardless of type, behave the same. So again, it'll sound like an Amber Alert, but it'll be an early earthquake warning. There's a distinctive sound, it vibrates, there's a text on your screen. You need to enable WEA, wireless emergency alerts, on your phone. Otherwise, you won't get these. Android's a little bit different. You kind of have a leg up. I have given you guidance for Android phones and Apple phones to enable that wireless emergency alert system, Shake Alert. The other one is just like downloading a normal app. The MyShake app is the only app capable of delivering early earthquake warnings in Washington State at this time. There will probably be more, but MyShake is out. So download both of those. And again, I sent you guidance already on how to do that. There's about 65% of the sensors in place. There are still more sensors that need to be placed. You know, we did the easy ones first, and now we're having to go into the remote mountains of Cascadia to put more sensors in. There's some out in the ocean. So most of the sensors in place, which is why the system is live, but there are more sensors that need to be put in place just to get more accurate information about each earthquake as it comes. And they should be finished putting all those sensors in place in late 2025. So after an earthquake, this is what you do. You check on people and pets in your unit. If you're in your apartment, your condo, great. If you're at work, you check on people there. If you're in the grocery store, you check on people next to you in the grocery store. If you're in the movies, you check on people there, check on people and pets, and then you manage your utilities. It is way up there. Before you reach out and text to family or friends, you want to manage those utilities, and we'll talk about why. And when I say new utilities, I'm talking about natural gas, electricity, and water. When the earth shakes, pipes break. I say this often, often, often. And that means every single pipe in the ground, which for us humans in cities is gas, water, and sewer. All of them have a potential to break. They're not new pipes, and they run across areas of the earth that do not do well in earthquakes. So let's talk about natural gas. Fires are very common after earthquakes, and that's because of natural gas leaks. Super, super common. Because of that, the folks that coordinate the immediate response after an earthquake is the fire department. They are in charge. Whatever they need, they get. That's why there's a big emphasis on controlling your utilities, especially the natural gas, because fires are so hard to fight after an earthquake. We just don't have water pressure. We can't get the fire crews to the fires because the roads are all messed up. So we're really trying to educate people about natural gas and keep those fires from breaking out.
Earthquakes often cause damage to utility lines, so knowing how and when to turn off your utilities after an earthquake is extremely important. Natural gas leaks and explosions are responsible for a significant number of fires following disasters. It is vital that all household members know how to shut off natural gas. Start by finding your gas meter. If you have natural gas service, a meter like this one will be located somewhere outside, along the perimeter of your house or apartment building. Next, make sure everyone knows when to turn off the natural gas. You only want to shut off the natural gas if you have some reason to believe there is a leak. Either one, you smell natural gas, which is a sulfur or rotten egg-like odor, or two, you hear natural gas leaking, which will be a hissing sound. If you do believe that there is a gas leak, locate a wrench, which you will need to shut the gas off. Make sure everyone knows where to find the wrench in your home so they can quickly access it. You could even keep the wrench outside, located with the gas meter. Make sure you regularly clear debris and bushes to make sure that you have an easy path to your gas meter. Locate the shutoff valve. The shutoff valve looks like this. When the gas is on, the valve is parallel to the pipe. To turn the gas off, place the wrench around the shutoff valve and turn the valve 90 degrees until it is running crosswise to the pipe. You can turn the valve either way, just as long as you stop when it is running perpendicular to the pipe. If you have turned off your gas, for your safety, do not turn it back on yourself. Contact your gas company to do so.
Shut off your gas if and only if you smell gas, which smells like sulfur or rotten eggs, or you hear hissing. If you don't smell the gas, if you don't hear it hissing, leave it on. And the reason for that, the reason we don't ask you to be super, super careful about turning it off is because you may need it after a disaster. If you don't need to be cold and without a gas stove or a gas fireplace, or without heat in your house, without the ability to cook, if you don't need to put yourself in that position, then don't. Leave your gas on if there seems to be nothing wrong with it. Once you have turned off your gas because you suspect there's a leak, do not turn it back on because it really needs to be inspected. It's not something to mess around with. The gas company needs to fix the leak before anything's turned back on. And I'm going to start calling these the pink sheets. Anything in pink is something I want you to talk about in your breakout room at the end of this class, and find out if you can all of you turn off the gas to your own unit if there was a gas leak. And so I've already talked to Mara. Yes, you can. You do not need a tool. And something to think about as a building is, how do you educate everyone to do this? There's 7 people on the call or something from Enzo. There's a lot of folks that are not going to know to do this. They're going to smell gas and they're not going to know what to do about it. They're not going to know how to turn off their gas. They're not even going to know that they need to turn off their gas. So that's something as a building you need to start talking about. How can you do that? Can you put it in your welcome aboard packet? Can you construct a table down in the lobby that maybe folks will read? Can you hang signs in the elevator just kind of briefly explaining how to do it? Your maintenance person, Jody, is amazing. He did some really good snapshots showing you how to do that. And I'm not going to go through that now, but I want to thank Jody for putting these together, and I will send them out after this meeting. He took really good pictures and showed you exactly how to turn things off in your own units, both at the stove and at your fireplace. Second question, in your building, is there a plan to turn off natural gas to the building? First of all, is there anybody there that can handle that after an emergency? Do you have 24/7 maintenance people that know how to turn off the gas to the building and have guidance to do that if they smell gas? So that's stuff that Mara has already figured out. You guys can talk about in your breakout room. That's the kind of stuff that makes it very unique being in units where you're sharing utilities and you're sharing walls. There has to be someone taking charge and making a plan to make this whole thing work. Real briefly, electricity is simpler. You're going to turn off the electricity at the main fuse box or your electric panel, probably located within your own units. If you see sparks or broken or frayed wires, or if you smell burning insulation, which is kind of a plasticky smell. If either of those are true and you can get to the fuse box safely, meaning you're not standing in a puddle of water as you walk towards it, then flip the breaker and turn all the electricity off to your particular unit. Yeah, don't step in water to get to the fuse box. Something else to discuss in the group: does each of your units have their own electric panel, or is there a breaker that you flip for the whole building? And then again, how would you teach people to do that? So let's talk about water. Again, when the earth shakes, pipes break. Water pipes in the ground are incredibly old in Seattle. There are pipes that they are starting to use that are more resilient to earthquakes, but you can't dig up the entire city and replace all the pipe. So they are replacing it as they go. If a pipe breaks, they will pull out the old pipe and they'll put in good, new, resilient pipe. But I read something not too long ago that said the last mile or two, whatever it was, of wooden pipe, literally wood pipes, just got replaced within the last year or so. So our pipes are very old, like 100 years old. Water is going to be a big issue, and we're going to lose water power very quickly. Always turn off your water after an earthquake. Doesn't matter if the water pipes are broken or not, always turn them off, and don't turn it back on until you know that the pipes are not damaged, because turning your water off is really easy and turning it back on is just as easy. So turn it off so that nobody in your household starts running faucets or starts flushing the toilet. And the concern, if there is damage to the pipes outside of your building, is that when you turn that water on, not only is it pulling any water that's in the pipe already into your unit, but it's also pulling in all the dirt and other crud around the pipe that is now leaking into the pipe. It's also pulling that into your apartment. So you want the water in your pipes to stay clean and drinkable, especially if you have a hot water tank. You definitely don't want that to get contaminated. So that's the reason you turn off the water, is you don't want anybody accidentally pulling in dirty water into your building. Seattle Public Utilities, these are their priorities as stated by them. Their number one priority is fighting fires. Their number two priority is getting water to essential facilities like hospitals and emergency response centers. After that, they look at other city facilities and essential businesses, places like the gas company, the electric company. If any of those need water to generate electricity or whatever, those are going to be higher on the priority than you and I. Emergency drinking water is number 4, so it is not at the top of the list, and they will go to densely populated areas first. You guys are more densely populated, obviously, than I am. I'm in a single family home neighborhood. You guys are going to get water much sooner than I am, but still, you're not going to get it within those, probably not for a week. I don't know that I've actually seen a number, but my guess is a week is the soonest you're going to see any kind of water. And that is not water that's here in Seattle. That is water that is being brought in from outside the state. So densely populated areas first, and then less densely populated areas. That's the priorities for Seattle Public Utilities. This is a water buffalo. There's about 4 of these or 6 of these, something like that in the city. It'll take 2 weeks for that to get anywhere. And then it's how do you fill it up? How do you keep it clean? How do you staff it with people so that nobody walks away with it? That kind of stuff. How to store water. So I'm going to recommend that you buy as much bottled water as you possibly can. 2 different containers on the screen. The one on the left is a milky white plastic. The one on the right is clear. I would recommend the bottle on the right just because I believe they're stronger and will last longer. There is no expiration date on bottles of water. If it was put into the container the way they told the FDA that it was, then there is no expiration date for water. So don't worry about switching it out. If you're filling your own containers, you do have to switch it out every 6 months. And I believe I sent you guidance already on how to do that if that's your preference. This 6-gallon package thing is like $7 at Smart Food Service. There's a couple different locations throughout the city. I just think that's a very good bargain. Bleach. If you use bleach in your house for laundry or for cleaning, you should probably buy bleach in smaller quantities than you think, because bleach loses potency fairly quickly. They actually make it stronger in the summer than they do in the winter because heat has the ability to make it less strong. Buy it in small quantities and rotate through it. Bleach is very good for killing bacteria in water. We do recommend that you put a little bit of bleach in water after you pull it out of a hot water tank. I think I've given you directions for that. If you have a hot water tank, that hose is really a good idea. The valve on the hot water tank is very, very low. This is ideal if you have this space. This is a 55-gallon drum. Clean it out really good, fill it with water, dump some bleach in there, seal it up and forget all about it until you need it. Here's a hot water tank. At the very bottom is where you would drain the hot water tank at. Very, very low. That's why that hose is kind of nice, because you can hook it on here and then run it into a bucket or a bowl or whatever you're putting your water in. This is an example of tape. It's called plumber's tape. It is not the right kind to secure that hot water tank. If you've had an inspection of your hot water tank anytime in the last probably 10 years, they're probably not using plumber's tape, but make sure that your hot water tank, if you have one, is strapped very securely to the studs in your apartment. You don't want that water source to hit the ground and bust. And you can drink the water out of the tank of your toilet, not the bowl, but the tank. I would encourage you to not use things like the blue deodorizing bombs that you put in the back of the tank, only because it's a chemical, and once you've made it blue, you can't drink it. So I would stay away from that. Not suitable for earthquake preparedness. I thought, oh, Life Straws, these are amazing. And I gave them out for Christmas presents and all kind of stuff. They are not good for emergencies in an urban setting. They do not filter out gasoline or oil from the roads, pesticides, herbicides, all the gunk that's in our environment. They do not filter that out. The Life Straw, it's meant for fresh running streams when you're out camping. They're amazing for that, but they are not good in an urban environment. This is also something I've seen quite a few people have purchased these with the idea that they're going to fill up their tub after an earthquake. The problem is we don't get a heads up. These are really good for like typhoons and monsoons. My husband lived in Okinawa for a while, and they always filled the bathtub up with one of these things so they could flush their toilets. But we don't get a heads up for earthquakes, so you don't have time to fill your tub. So not a good idea. Where do I get drinking water? Again, I'm going to encourage you to buy bottled water and buy it in a size that's manageable for you. Hot water tank is a good option. It's a great option if you have those. Canned fruits and vegetables, that's a source of water a lot of people don't think about. Hot tubs and pools cannot be cleaned well enough to make it drinkable. You might be able to wash some clothes out in it, but you cannot get all those chemicals out and make it drinkable. So if that's your plan, get a new plan. Lake water, another thing that cannot be filtered out and cleaned well enough after a disaster. All the pollutants that it's already in the water, plus you've got all these boats banging up against each other and tanks breaking and the floating homes and all that kind of stuff is going to be in the water, and all the dirt and the landslides, mudslides into the water. You're not going to be able to clean that water well enough to drink it. So again, if that was your plan, was to go down to Lake Washington and scoop up water and filter it and make it drinkable, it's a bad plan. Mara sent me this picture. I thought it was a lovely way to store water. In review, natural gas, turn it off only if you smell gas or you hear it hissing. Otherwise, leave it alone and count yourselves lucky that you get to use it. Electricity, you're going to turn it off if you see sparks, have broken or frayed wiring, or smell burning insulation. Water, always turn it off after an earthquake. You want to keep the water inside your unit clean and drinkable. I'd like for you to go to your breakout rooms and discuss utilities and how you would manage them as a community